Hey everybody, this is Dr. Duncan at Siskiyou Medicine here in Medford, Oregon, and I'm joined by Ron Veitel, our lifestyle and nutritional coach, and we are here tonight for Wednesday Night Live. The Wednesday Night Live is all about bringing information to you and providing information to our community in a fun, relaxed manner, because I think writing for hours upon end is sort of monotonous, and talking about information is actually a lot easier for me to do. So I thought, let's do Wednesday Night Live.
I'm with you.
Yeah.
Talking is much easier for me. I love that.
All right. So tonight's topic, do you remember what we had titled tonight's topic?
We did. We said movement is key. That is going to be tonight's topic. That movement is key because the physical body, the human body is designed to move.
Yeah, like I'm doing right now.
Like
trying to get it in the frame.
That's right. You may notice we're sitting on the floor right now, cross-legged, and there's a reason for that because, and we'll go into that more as we get further on, but we're going to talk a lot about the impact of sitting, that what an impact sitting has on our health in general.
And I just have to mention that I'm on Twitter at DPC Doctor. My handle is at DPC Doctor. You can also find us at Siskiyou Veitel Med. I was looking at Twitter the other day, and I found that Dr. McClane he had written a blog about how toxic sitting is. And the headline is that for every 1 hour of sitting, it takes 2 hours off your life. And I thought, that's incredible. I've never heard that statistic before, so I had to dig into it. And what I found was pretty shocking. And I know you have dug up some information about that topic as well. So.
Right. So you sent me the link to that article, and I began to read that, and I thought, wow, this is actually really fascinating because I'm a big fan of movement, and I've always preferred standing up, doing what I do, rather than sitting down. I don't like to sit at a desk because it's not as productive for me. And what's really interesting is as you dig into the research, what they find is that people are actually more productive when they stand and do their work than when they sit at a desk.
You know, I find that interesting. So our kids go to a Waldorf school, right? So they actually incorporate a lot of movement into learning. So when they learn math skills or language skills, they actually incorporate that into like a rhythm, a dance, some form of movement to get the kids to incorporate that into their body, which is I find incredible. And I was actually speaking to a patient the other day, and they were talking about some statistic they read about kids learning better when moving. So, if it applies to kids, I'm sure it applies to adults. Right?
Absolutely. Interesting that you bring that topic up because September 30th in Grants Pass, I'll be giving a talk at the Healthy Food Festival called Nutrition and Child Development. And one of the things I want to talk about at that is the importance of rhythm in child development, or rhythmicity and timing. And what they have found with children is that rhythm and movement in a timing fashion actually enhances the learning capacity for them. And it's a crucial part of child development. And I think it's the same for us as we move. If we move and we create and we develop balance, that's really important.
I think the body's made to move, right?
Right.
We're all made to move. We're not made to sit sedentary for long periods of time. And we're not made to stand in one place for long periods of time. So I think what we'll learn tonight is that there's a balance that you have to strike between movement and then being sedentary, right? So I think the article had talked about sitting on the floor was actually one of the best ways to actually sit, and chairs are like the death of the human race, right? So the chair is like the best and the worst thing that we've come up with.
Right.
Like it's the end of humanity. I always think like, what's the end of humanity? Nuclear weapons? No, it's chairs. Chairs are going to kill all of us. So sitting on the floor is actually, as I'm sitting here, I notice that I'm engaging my core a little bit, and I'm sitting differently on my sits bones. So maybe I'm not occluding the vessels and stopping that blood flow.
The other thing is that you have what we're doing is we're sitting cross-legged right now on the floor. And in doing that, what you have is a greater range of motion. So you can actually move in more directions and you can open your hips up. And that greater range of motion is much better for the physical body and our well-being than sitting kind of stiff in a chair like we're confined in a chair like we can be.
Right. And I see a lot of people, so I do a lot of injection therapy for patients, and a lot of that centers around back pain. And what I've found is that people who sit for long periods of time experience more back pain. And what I think is occurring is that, the big psoas muscle, the hip flexor, it's constantly engaged. So oftentimes I'll have patients, and maybe you guys can try this at home. So take your muscle, don't laugh. Okay, let me hide that a little bit. So why don't you try this with me, Ron? So I want you to engage that biceps muscle, and we're going to hold that for about 30 seconds. And so what this is doing is it's sort of simulating what that psoas muscle does. And so you're sitting all day, your psoas muscle is engaged, your hip flexor is engaged, so we're sitting in that seated position. And I think about truck drivers and delivery drivers and these people that sit for long periods of time and they complain of back pain. So after about 30 seconds, what I want you to experience is I want you to kind of unwind the arm. So nice hard flex there at the end. So we're going to engage that. And then what we're going to do is we're going to kind of straighten it out. And I want you to just kind of feel that. Do you kind of feel that tightness? Wow, that cool?
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
So when you so your psoas muscle is attached to your lower spine, your lumbar spine, and it also attaches to your hips. So when you stand up and straighten out, you're elongating that muscle, and that causes that pain, which people will experience as back pain.
Now, I have heard, and I don't know, maybe you know, maybe we don't know, I'm not sure. But
let's see.
That's what
tonight's all about.
We are going to find out. I have heard that the psoas muscle, when it's constantly engaged like that, actually contributes to us being stuck in a sympathetic nervous system state.
Right. I think that's true. Having a large muscle engaged all the time is kind of promotes that sympathetic state where we should be more relaxed. I notice in the seated position, I can move my legs easily and stretch out as needed to. Sitting in a chair kind of puts my spine in an awkward position. So I could see maybe that would be true. Absolutely.
Excellent. Well, I want to get into some statistics here because I love numbers.
Numbers speak for themselves.
I don't like to crunch numbers, but I like statistical numbers. And I'm going to read a little bit here because I don't have all of these memorized. But as I was doing some research, I found this fascinating, and I think perhaps you will too. But there is a meta-analysis, and a meta-analysis is a look at a variety of studies. And so this meta-analysis looked at 18 different studies and over 800,000 subjects. So this is a lot of people we're talking about here. And what they found was that those who sat the most had a twofold higher risk of diabetes. They had a 2.5-fold higher risk of heart disease and a 90% higher risk of death from heart disease, as well as a 50% higher risk of death from all causes when compared to those that sat the least. And that's a pretty staggering figure right there to think about people who are sitting having that much greater risk of mortality. And so one of the things that researchers are starting to come out and saying is that sitting is actually the new cigarette. It's actually worse for you.
Isn't that incredible? That statistic blows my mind.
Yes.
Blows my mind.
So as Dr. Duncan said earlier, for every, hour that you sit, you take 2 hours off your lifespan. For every cigarette that you smoke, you lose 11 minutes off of your life.
Yeah.
So they're even finding that people who take cigarette breaks, who take smoke breaks at work, are actually healthier than those who stay sitting because they get up and they walk for a few minutes. They move and then they come back and sit down again. So not to say you should pick up smoking so you can walk
never.
healthier. But the reality is that sitting is worse than smoking in many ways.
And why do you think that is? Are there studies showing why that happens, or what?
I think we're just starting to get into that right now. Okay. But one thing that's really interesting is that they found that people who sit for too long, it actually it contributes to insulin resistance. So it works on insulin production in the pancreas. And they've also found that it shuts down the circulation of an enzyme called lipase, which is necessary for digesting and absorbing fat. So we don't even break our fat down as well as we could if we sit for too long.
That's just incredible. We talk about being healthy and reducing sugars in your diet and reducing inflammation in your diet, and then people are sitting probably 8, 10, 12 hours a day typically. Watching TV. What's the average TV watcher? So
at least 4 more hours a day.
4 hours a day. So we're fighting an uphill battle if we're not talking about moving your body, right? And
Right.
So this is just, again, I started looking through my Twitter feed, and this was just an incredible statistic that I couldn't ignore. And it totally brought me back into my practice and treating this epidemic of back pain. So I think this is a really important topic.
And I think what you just touched on with the back pain, that's what a lot of medical professionals are finding, is that the chronic low back pain, the chronic back pain that people are experiencing, which is becoming more and more prevalent, is because of all the desk jobs that people have. People are sitting at desks in front of their computers for long periods of time. And there's a new movement happening with like stand-up desks, having desks that can go up or down, because it's important to be able to stand up and move your body and work while you're standing up. But what's interesting is, just as you don't want to sit for a prolonged period of time, nor do you want to stand for a prolonged period of time.
And I think about people and professions that require them to stand, particularly in one place for long periods of time.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So I know that they have those rubber mats that kind of cushion the feet a little bit and cushion the spine, but definitely, I had that experience as a teenager working in a restaurant, washing dishes. I stood in basically one spot for a really long time, and I noticed that my feet hurt, my back hurt, and that can lead to other things, other problems. So that's a good point to raise. So another thing I think that that we experimented with today was a functional test, right?
Yes.
It's kind of fun.
That was fun.
Can we demonstrate that a little bit?
We absolutely can demonstrate that a little bit.
This functional test is geared towards seeing whether or not, it's like a measurement of vitality, right? So mortality. We're looking at mortality. So how are you at risk for disease? So let's, Ron, can you demonstrate for us and walk us through that?
I can.
Kind of move
so you might lose me you might lose like the upper half of me here. But what I'm going to demonstrate is a test to see how capable one is of standing up without any help. And I can't remember the exact name of this test. Do you remember, Dr. Duncan?
I don't remember the exact technical name of the test, but we can definitely post that on our feed.
Right.
And so there's a point system involved with this. So if you use a hand, it's minus a point. If you use a shin, or you use a knee, or you use an elbow, those are all minus points. Now, if you stumble as you get up, it's minus half a point. So it's a 5-point scale. So let's just see how well we do.
It's best to do this barefoot. If you want to join us, you can. So basically what we're going to do, and I encourage you to join us, because we had a lot of fun doing this morning as a group. We had, I think, 4 or 5 of us doing it together. So I'm going to stand up from sitting position. I'm sitting cross-legged, as you can see. And I'm going to stand up, and I'm going to do my best to not use my hands, to not use any kind of support. So I'm just going to go straight from this position to standing up and try and keep my balance as best as I possibly can. And we'll see how well I can do this. Let's find out.
All right, let's see you go first.
Ready?
There we go. All right. No stumble.
No stumble.
Good.
No stumble. So now the next thing is to see if I can sit back down as well. So let's see if I can, see if I can sit back down. So I'm going to cross my legs.
Nice.
Sit down. So out of a score of 10, that's a 10 out of 10.
It's 5 out of 5.
5 out of 5.
5 out of 5.
I like 10.
He's an Olympian, right? 10 points. Yeah. So I often have patients that come in and they tell me, there's no way I can get to the floor anymore, and I just find that to be, for me, like that's an indicator of health. How well do you get up and down off the floor? And so this test, to see this test come along, is really sort of a validation of that. And I encourage all of you, if you cannot get up and down from the floor, work to do so. And I think that starting to regain your flexibility and your strength over time, work with a physical therapist or find a yoga studio and gradually get into regaining that flexibility, right? It seems hard to imagine not being able to get up and down and to move freely, but it's a reality for so many people.
It is. And so as we get older, the natural tendency is that we're going to start losing a little bit of our flexibility or perhaps a little bit of our balance, but we can work on these things. And if you can't get down to the floor or up the way that I just demonstrated, there's other things that you can do. You can use your hands, and you can, just find ways that you can do it that work for you. But the key thing is to do it, to just find some ways that work for you, where you can stand up and maintain some range of motion in your body.
I think that's really important, retaining that range of motion. And it's really important for the health aspects that you mentioned earlier, the diabetes, the reduction in circulatory health, and looking at, lipids and just metabolic disease in general, right? So what are some of your favorite supplements to use in terms of increasing circulation in the body?
I have a few, and I want to touch on something that you just said.
Oh, good.
Really fast. Because when we sit, we're less metabolically active. When we're standing, we're more metabolically active. And so we actually burn more calories standing than we do sitting. So even just, getting up and standing like that, doing a little standing work is important. So the other thing I want to say before I get to that too is that our fascia, if we sit in the same position for, I think it's 19 to 20 minutes, what happens is our fascia, which is keeps us, it's kind of like
I call it the sock.
Go for it.
You know what I mean?
Tell us
it's
about
sort
that.
of like it's sort of like a giant sock that we're all fit into, or like a sheet. It's that sort of white fibrous silk that covers every muscle and keeps that muscle structure intact. So if you can imagine, you take off your suit and you have a sock underneath, or you take off the shoe, there's a sock. It kind of keeps it together. So you can pull on one end of the sock and it affects the other. So and then I think that's true for the fascia. The fascia in your feet can affect the top of your head. So I think,
And as you sit, if you sit in the same position, so think driving, think at your desk, at your computer, if you're all hunched over, well, what happened is the fascia will begin to harden and solidify around that position, because the body's saying, well, this is how I want to be. And so it starts to get stiff and inflexible. And so every 19 to 20 minutes, let's say every 20 to 30 minutes, you want to get up and you want to move a little bit, so that, because the fascia is, as I believe, is thixotropic, meaning that with movement and heat, it's like kind of like jello, like gelatin. When it's cold, it's hard and solid, but with heat, it softens and liquefies. So movement creates this friction that allows that to soften up, and you don't get stuck in that position.
Right. And you know what that makes me think of? Our lives are all about here, right? We're all on the keyboard, or we're on our devices, or we're driving, or we're cooking. Life is in front of us, right? So what I see a lot of times, people complain about neck pain and shoulder pain. And the problem is that they're tightening, just as you said. You're looking at that tightening of the fascia. We're all coming forward. We're all kind of wrapped in our lives like this. And it really puts a lot of strain on those muscles in the back, especially the rhomboids, the trapezius, and the scalenes in the neck. So if you're experiencing neck pain, shoulder pain, think about that. And then as you get up to stretching your 20 minute or 30-minute interval, stretch it back, pull it back, and open yourself up to the back. Really open your heart up to the world. Right.
You want to come into the world like this. Good posture is kind of, if you were to take your shoulders and bring them to your ears and move them back a little bit and then drop them. That's good posture right there. That's like a healthy posture. But I want to come full circle to the question you asked me, which was
what are
some
your
of my favorite circulatory herbs. Because
herbs, okay.
Or supplements.
Foods. We can talk about foods.
We can talk about foods too. I love. For me, some of my favorite herbs that I like to use for circulation are butcher's broom and Centella asiatica, also known as gotu kola. And I also like horse chestnut, specifically for bringing circulation up the legs. One of the things, for people who stand for long periods of time, the blood can go down, but what might happen is the circulation might not come back up.
Exactly.
Because the veins become flaccid. Right?
Yeah, and you'll see that a lot of times with varicosities, right? So those purple veins in the legs, or you can get venous stasis. Some of you might know or have a diagnosis of penostasis, so about blood return, right?
Mm-hmm.
Blood return to the heart, circulate through the body, and not pool in the legs.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I would say those are some of my top three. How about for you?
Yes. So, you know what I think about? I think about nitric oxide.
Ooh, yeah.
So for me, nitric oxide is about vasodilation and circulation, and also that nitric oxide, when it causes that vasodilation, we're getting oxygenation of the tissues. So I think that's my number one. Mm-hmm. And you can get nitric oxide naturally through beets, but sometimes I'll prescribe a supplement called citrulline. Yep. And if you have problems with the herpes virus, then or if you don't have problems with the herpes virus, we'll prescribe arginine. So it's a precursor to nitric oxide.
Exactly. Arginine, I believe, can convert to citrulline, right? I think that might be how it goes.
Well, yeah, I think so. But, I wanted to say that my favorite nitric oxide supplement is actually exercise. So, our body stores nitric oxide. And within the first 3 to 5 minutes of exercise, your body releases all of its stores of nitric oxide. So I think that the benefits of exercise really come from that release. So we vasodilate, meaning our blood vessels open, creating highways or interstates out of one lane roads, right? Mm-hmm. So all this blood will rush in you. And when you exercise, you might notice that you might get a little tingly, or you might, you'll start sweating, but things definitely you get flushed, but things are definitely moving. So I think, opening up the blood vessels is key, right? So nitric oxide is one of my favorites. Another one I really like is, I said beets, right? So beets is my favorite. But I do like gotu kola. So gotu kola is great for circulation. And I also like hawthorn. So hawthorn's all about treating the heart. And so the heart, is circulating this blood. I want a healthy heart. So I'm always thinking about, when I'm talking to patients about circulation, nitric oxide is number one. We talk about heart health. So hawthorn is number two. Gotu kola I really like. And then bioflavonoids. So bioflavonoids or molecules that you get from berries, right? So like blackberries, blueberries, raspberries. And there's a great product that we carry, but it's full of these bioflavonoids, and it's really great for the blood vessels. It's high in vitamin C, and so lots of collagen, blood vessel support, and then, of course, movement. So.
Speaking of nitric oxide, I want to throw one other food out there with nitric oxide that I think all of you will be really happy to hear, and that is dark chocolate. That 30 grams of dark chocolate, just a little over an ounce, not a whole lot, can actually stimulate the release of nitric oxide. So, but it has to be 70% or greater dark chocolate, preferably higher than 70%. 70% is kind of like, just like crossing that threshold. So if you can get up higher, I like the 88% dark chocolate, something like that. And that can help with the release of nitric oxide as well. This can be fun.
You can't go wrong with dark chocolate.
You can't go wrong with dark chocolate. This does not, you don't have to eat a ton of beets. You can have something really delicious. Beets are delicious too, but you can have some dessert with those beets.
I really don't like beets.
No?
I grew up with like canned beets, and so I think I was ruined by beets, but to eat a fresh beet that you've grown out of your garden. And my favorite beet recipe is actually something called beet kvass, which is a fermented beet drink. Which is really great for help cleansing the liver and cleansing the gallbladder. That's kind of one of my favorite ways to get beets. Otherwise, I'd hide them in things like meatloafs. Right? I kind of like, I don't know, I'm kind of picky when it comes to beets. But so I think those are really great recommendations. And let's see, what else do we have on our list here?
Well, you know what? A couple things. There's two more things. Proper walking.
Oh boy.
And balance.
Yes.
How to walk properly. You think, well, I walk the way I walk, but there's actually a right way to walk. And that is with your feet straight ahead. Many times I see people who, their feet are out and maybe they kind of walk like a little duck or, but when your feet are out like that, it's not good for a variety of muscles and structural issues as well. So when you're walking, what you want to do is you want to make sure that your feet are straight ahead. And you know what? it may take you some time to get there, but a little change each day, 1% change each day will lead to great change over time.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So, you know what I noticed today in somebody that's complaining of sacroiliac pain or back pain, just kind of, like general back pain. They walked kind of in on the outside of their heel, so that's a problem too. So, look at the way you're walking. If you want to find out how you're walking, look at the bottom of your shoe, and they'll tell you a lot. This thing is like a record keeper, right? It's like the history book right here.
Absolutely.
How have I been walking in my life? So, are you wearing the inside of the sole, or are you wearing the outside of the sole, or is it just kind of generally worn?
I like that.
Little tricks.
Yeah.
It's like hack your life.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah. These are biohacks. We're giving you biohacks.
Biohacks.
And the last thing we want to talk about, and only briefly because we know we have to wrap it up in just a few minutes, is the importance of balance. Right. So one of the things we were talking about at the beginning was, the balance in standing up from a cross-legged position. But balance is a predictor of mortality as well, right? So,
Absolutely.
So one of the biggest issues as we get older is people falling. And somebody who falls that's elderly and they lose their balance, they break their hip, that can send them into a real downward spiral. So doing exercises to maintain your balance is really important. And some exercises that you can do, but you might want to give a disclaimer on this.
Well, what I'd like to say about that is, if anybody would like to work on balance or has any balance issues, that they talk to their provider, maybe get a referral to a good PT who understands what balance exercises encompass. But if you're going to be working on balance, make sure you hold on to something, right? Especially if you come from a place of imbalance and you're trying to get into balance, brace yourself, make sure you're going to be safe and not end up, falling and hurting yourself. So here at Siskiyou Vital Medicine, we're a direct primary care clinic, and we provide unrestricted access to primary care services. We happen to be naturopathic focused. We're naturopathic physicians. So we're looking at treating the root cause of illness, and we're trying to find the solution to the problem rather than masking symptoms, right? So we're looking at, I kind of think of things as a gardener might, as an organic gardener or a beyond organic gardener, where I'm trying to build the soil, I'm trying to build the body, build the terrain to help support health rather than, spraying poison on it to affect the outcome. So we're all about nurturing the terrain. And if you'd like to check us out, you can get on our website at www.siskiyouvitalmedicine.com. You can check us out on Twitter at Siskiyou Vital Medicine Med. And then you can check me out on Twitter at DPC Doctor. And DPC stands for Direct Primary Care, which is a great model. If you guys don't know what DPC is, check out our Facebook feed. I posted a small video there, and it explains it pretty good, right?
It does.
I think it's cartoony, but
it's fantastic. It's a really great introduction into what direct primary care is and how beneficial it is for you as a patient and the quality of care that you can get from a direct primary care practice such as Siskiyou Vital Medicine.
Right, and I think what's unique about Siskiyou Vital Medicine, its direct primary care practice, is that not only are we naturopathic physicians, but we have Ron Veitel, who's also been in the health industry for decades. What, 2 decades?
2 decades.
2 decades.
20 years.
20 years. Yeah. This guy is just a wealth of information. So, we can look at your nutrition. We can look at nutritional motivation. You're finishing up a class right now that talks about relationship with food. So the foundation of health really is food is medicine. Mm-hmm. And so I think that's really important, and our members have access to.
That's right. And starting October 12th, we will be doing a class called Transforming Your Relationship with Food. And it's going to be a really wonderful dive into how to understand what your relationship with food is and how to create a really healthy relationship with it so that you can make the changes you need to be a healthier individual.
That's amazing. That's so good. Also, we have Dr. Sonia Halsey, who's a part of our practice. She is an amazing practitioner who's very interested in treating people who have autoimmune conditions, neurological conditions, women's health, and GI dysfunction. So really, as a naturopath, we look at how are you interfacing with your environment, what are you taking in, and how you're absorbing. Are you absorbing your nutrients? How many of you are absorbing the supplements you're buying?
Ooh, that's such a great
That's
question.
A huge topic, right?
That is huge.
So if you're interested, schedule an appointment with Dr. Sonia Halsey.
And that might be a topic we do. How do you know you're absorbing your supplements and your nutrients? Who knows what we're going to talk about next?
People spend so much money on supplements.
Yes.
Boy, I bet they'd love to know if they're getting their money's worth, right?
Absolutely.
All right, guys.
Hey, thank you so much for joining us. If you like what you heard today, please share it with your friends. Please let your friends know that we're going to do this every Wednesday at 6 o'clock Pacific time. We'd love for you to join in, be a part of the conversation. We'd love to take your questions in the future. So thank you for being here.
Submit all your health questions to admin@siskiyouvitalmedicine.com and title the email Wednesday Night Live.
Yes.
All right, guys. Thank you.
Thank
it was
you.
fun. Bye.